Welcome to the Thriving Christian Artist, the podcast where we hope you connect with God to bust through the roadblocks that have held you back for years, create the work you love, and really live the life you know God created you to live as an artist in His kingdom. I'm Matt Thomas, your host. Let's get started. Well, hey, everybody, welcome to the podcast today. I'm so excited to have a fellow nature lover and artist with me, Shawna Wright. Shawna, I'm so glad that you're with me today on the podcast.
Well, I'm excited to be here too.
Absolutely. I was looking through your website as we were just about to get started, and I was like, you know what? We would be total friends in real life because you love birds and I love nests. And so I'm like, we should be doing artwork together. This is
that would be great.
This is a beautiful thing. So tell everybody, you're living in the Northwest of the United States right now, but that's not where you're from originally. So tell everybody who you are, where you're from, and a little bit about what you do creatively.
Well, as you said, my name is Shawna Wright, and I actually was born and grew up and raised in northern British Columbia, Canada. And we moved down to the Washington-Oregon border in the Northwest here 6 years ago. And my life just kind of bloomed since then.
Awesome. So talk about that blooming, because, I think more than blooming, you were probably unthawing, because you said Canada and I'm like, oh, Canada. Yeah. And she's like, before you were like, no, drive 14 or 15 hours north of Washington State. I'm like, oh, that's like really, really far north. So you've had a whole different change of scenery, change of creativity in these last few years. I mean, wow.
Yes, it really has. Well, it was right about the time I'd homeschooled my children, and I'd been a stay-at-home mom. I work with my husband doing a kitchen cabinet business.
Cool.
And then it was just kind of a time in my life where, I kind of needed more meaning, something more to my life. And so there's two folds of my story, but the one side is I was praying, asking God to give me something to do for Him, a ministry, never ever thinking it would be art. And that's what happened. And It totally took me off surprise, and my family and everyone.
Would you have considered yourself an artist before that time, or?
Absolutely not. Not in the least. My children would come and sit on my lap as they were little and say, like my daughter loved giraffes, Mom, draw me a giraffe. And I couldn't even do a stick one. They would just totally laugh at my art. So it was a total shock to all of us.
Wow. Now you've got a beautiful story about your dad on your website, and talked about kind of how that began to unfold. Was that the first time that, maybe tell that story, but is that the first time that you started really seeing your art have a difference and have this connection with the Lord?
Yeah, it's a funny story. It's twofold, and you're right. About 3.5 years ago, my father was injured badly and depressed. And when you said 15 hours north, that was 15 hours north of where you knew in Canada. I'm actually almost 24 hours away from where I came from, where my father is.
Oh my gosh.
So it's way up there. So anyway, Dad had fallen on the ice and hurt himself badly. And it turned into a painful disease. And he was sitting in a chair, just hurting in agony and depressed. And I didn't know what I could do. I couldn't just get up and go be with him. So I was praying about it. And the thought came to me to do a daily journal and put in it Bible promises. And I scanned it a page every day and I sent it to him. This went on for a couple years.
Wow.
At least a full year.
So you guys weren't living in the same house at that time or anything like that?
Oh, absolutely not. We're almost a day's travel away.
Wow.
That's 24 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then what I did, and at first it was just, my handwriting was kind of messy and it just was nothing. But as I progressed, it did improve. And then I would want to try to embellish it. So I would try a little bit of here and there. And so about a year or more down the road is when I did a watercolor painting in it just for fun for his birthday. And it was of a bird. And I had just used kids' paint in a journal. And and something special had happened, and all of a sudden there's this beautiful painting. And this was right about the same time that I had been praying about a ministry for him.
Wow.
For God. Yeah. So, and it was like, I knew something had special had happened when I looked at that. And so did my dad. And he wrote me back and said, we're going to frame this one.
We have a winner, right?
Yeah, we're going to frame this. So I turned around and I thought, well, that was so much fun. Let me do it again. But I had the jitters after that. And it just was a disaster of a painting the next one. And this was just a one-time fluke.
Right.
And so then I tried to call I think that was one of the things, the questions you had given me to think about was, what was one of the things I had a challenge? And I think the biggest challenge was to turn off my brain of what people might think, or, and just relax and let it happen instead of, well, they're going to expect this, or I should do it a certain way. I think that was the biggest challenge for there. So I had to turn that off and pray through it. And the next one actually came. And then I thought, well, this was so much fun. Why don't I do 12 of them? I do nothing small. So I said,
I'm getting that feeling here. So yeah.
So I said, let's do 12 and do a calendar for them for Christmas. And so
you're still doing this primarily for your dad, one off.
Yes,
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I blabber, and I was on social media and I shared with what I was doing. And then of course, those people who were following what I was doing said, well, I want one too. And we ended up doing 98 calendars.
Wow.
And so then it just kind of progressed, and it ended up being a Facebook page and then a website and then I'm just in the midst of doing the 5th calendar now.
Wow.
Yeah, so it just totally happened. Well, it was an answer to prayer, but there you go.
Hey guys, it's Matt. Listen, I've got something really, really exciting to share with you guys. We're hosting our very first podcast review contest this week only. All right. Look at somebody say, this week only. All right. August 13th through the 19th, 2019. And our goal is to get 200 additional podcast reviews. Listen, to all of you who have already done a review, thank you so much. We're going to include you in this as well, but we want 200 additional podcast reviews. And so that we, can share the love, right? Now, we've got thousands of listeners a week, and I hear your stories all the time via, Facebook and Instagram and email and that sort of thing. But we want you to share the love, all right, for the podcast as well as review on iTunes and on social media. So to give you a little bit of incentive, all right, sweeten the pot a little bit, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to ask you to review the podcast. We're going to give you all the details. They're down in the show notes, all right, down below. But at the end of the contest, everybody that does review the podcast and tag us and post the way that we ask you to do it, we're going to draw, all right, 5 names randomly out of all those reviews, all right, and one person is of those 5 is going to get a prize. Another person's going to get a prize. So 5 people, all right, are going to get a prize. Now, the first prize is pretty cool. It's a signed copy of my book, Created to Thrive. It's a bestseller, gone all over the world. Tons and tons of people read it. That's going to be one of the prizes, a signed copy. We'll mail it right to your house, no matter where you are in the world. That's a $15 value, all right? So complete freebie. The second one is an audio version of that book. So that's a $20 value. We're going to, digitally get that to you so you can listen to the book wherever you might be, at the gym or walking in the studio, whatever. The third, all right, raising the stakes a little bit, is a $100 gift. Yes, $100 US Amazon gift card. All right. You can use it any way you want for, gift for somebody else, for art supplies, for books, for whatever you want. All right. Doesn't matter. The fourth, all right, raising it a little more. The fourth is a ticket to the first ever Thriving Christian Artists Conference, which is coming up in March 2020 right here in Asheville, North Carolina. That's a $297 value, friends. All right. Somebody's going to get a ticket to that. And then the last one, I can't even believe I'm doing this, but this is huge. The last one, all right, number 5, is a 1-year membership to my Created to Thrive Artist Mentoring Program. That is a $467 value. Somebody is going to win that, all right, who does a new podcast review during this week in this podcast review contest, all right? So the bottom line is this. Listen, this is over $700, almost $800 worth of prizes. And listen, I would love for one of those to go to you. So here's the deal. All right. It's only happening this week. You can't delay on this. Go to the show notes right now, all right, of this episode and get all the details on how to enter the contest by reviewing the podcast on iTunes, screenshotting that, and then sharing that on social media, Instagram or Facebook, all right, or even Pinterest, really, all right, and then tag at the Thriving Christian Artist, all right. Don't tag me, all right. Don't tag Matt and Tommy. Don't tag some of our team. You have to tag at the Thriving Christian Artist. And when you do that, that's going to allow our team to see it and register you for the contest. And that's the only way that your name is going to be included in that. All right. So listen, help us out. And when you do, I'm going to help you out as well. At least 5 of you. Somebody's going to win those incredible prizes. And when they do, we'll be sharing all the winners on an upcoming episode so that we can celebrate the incredible prizes and the winners. All right. Thanks so much. And really, from the bottom of my heart, thanks so much for loving and being willing to share the podcast. That's incredible. You know, I love that story because I hear from artists all the time, either in our free Facebook group or in my mentoring program or whatever. They're going through their life, and then all of a sudden, a sickness, a disease, a disaster, or something horrible or really challenging happens to them or somebody in their family, and all of a sudden it shuts down their creativity, their creative process. And the thing I love about your story is that really just with blind faith going, Lord, I got some kids' colors, I got some paper, I got,
Yes.
I'm offering this to you, and look what the Lord did. I mean, would you say that that has been a normal part of your life, or this was kind of like, as far as, wow, I'm going to make lemonade out of lemons, or was this kind of a new experience for you of taking this really challenging experience and turning it into something that the Lord could use?
Well, as in the form of art, Bible promises have been special to me. We've gone through quite a few very hard things in our lives over the years.
Yeah.
And so Bible promises have become very special to me. And my Bible is very well marked up. So it's, people go, well, how do you, I don't know if we inform people here that all my paintings are of birds with Bible promises on them.
Yeah.
I don't know if we said that.
Yeah.
So people say, well, how do you choose a Bible promise? What are you going to use? But it's simply open up my Bible and it's there. And I have used that promise. I've claimed it before. I know. And so I never choose them to be something to preach or something I think somebody needs, but rather if it speaks to me, then it's going to speak to somebody else.
Right.
And I'm not sure if I answered your question. I think I got distracted.
No, that's fine. I think I love the fact that you're really going with the flow of the Spirit in your work, because I think what happens to a lot of artists, and we talk a lot about this on the Thriving Christian Artist podcast, this idea that people come into their art and then they start developing and they want to sell their art, which is awesome. I love that. That's what I teach people how to do. And at the same time, there can be a lot of baggage with that, and people start creating only things that they quote unquote, think will sell or have seen sell before. I love the way you're coming at it, which is the way I teach people to come at it, which is make what you love and then put it out there in the marketplace and see where the points of connection are, because that's where I think the Lord really releases favor in your life to not only make what you love authentically, but then also be able to sell that in the marketplace or offer it as a ministry or whatever, you want to do. And it sounds like that's your story.
Yes, anything that I do, like I've recently started blogging too, to go along with each painting. I've got how that promise has applied to my life. and it has to, I mean, emotional. So I have to have it emotionally affected me, my painting, my verse, anything. And I think it becomes stale and stagnant if it doesn't.
Yeah,
So that's how it
absolutely.
works for me.
Now, I'm sure I'm just going to throw out a wild guess, having worked with tons of artists. I'm sure there's been some point at in your development here in the progression of this where you turned around and you're like, OMG, I have an art business and I have no clue what I'm doing. And how do I set up an art, a storefront and a website and all of that. I talk to artists every day in the mentoring program, walking them through that, process. But how have you dealt with that? Have you had help, or are you finding your way through that? And because obviously you're having success in selling your work and that sort of thing. So how's that end of things been for you?
Well, I can't say that I'm totally beyond that. There are places where I still need help. Now, well, it's prayer. It really is. And God just brings the answers when I need it.
Mm,
And I can't say it hasn't been a lot of work. I mean, I know of some artists that just tell me, well, how, this just, you're so lucky. Well, you can't just sit and do nothing.
yeah,
You have to put yourself out there too. And
yeah,
I believe God has directed me and shown me how to do that. And my mother is a very much an entrepreneur and had a store and a very much salesperson. And for years, I just kind of pushed that away because I didn't want to be that. But I think I've grown up enough to know that embrace it, that I've got that talent too, and
yeah,
gone ahead
yeah.
with it.
Well, I tell people all the time, I think whether you're an extrovert like we are probably,
Yes,
or more introverted, that sort of thing, each of us are wired differently. And it's not about trying to be this or that, but trying to really be authentically who you are, because people buy art because of connection. And that's what I hear you saying as
yes,
people are
yes.
looking at your art. They're connecting with either
Mhm.
you, with the Lord in you, with what you're communicating through your work. And that's where you have the opportunity to really begin and grow and cultivate an art business. And I love that, because otherwise you can really get into that thing of, I'm just trying to sell my stuff or trying to figure out how to get people to buy more of my stuff. And I'm like, stop the presses. That is not, that's not how it works. The
Exactly.
more you build connection, the more people want to buy from you. So what are some of the things that you're doing? Because it sounds like that's a regular part of your story. What are some of the things that you've seen be the most fruitful in building connection and getting your work out there as somebody that's brand new in this?
Well, I have both locally and social media.
Mm-hmm.
Locally, I have a little Christian bookstore that I go in and I visit with people monthly, and it's very sweet of the owner. They've given me a table where I can set up. I mean,
Mm,
that is a huge blessing. I have
yeah.
a permanent table where I put my cards and calendars and art on, and then I can sit there and paint and meet one-on-one with people, and that's been really fun. But I think the biggest thing for me is social media and just being myself, and not only sharing my art but encouraging other people. And if somebody's encouraged, well, here's a Bible verse, and of course it's on my painting, and that kind of thing. But just I belong to a lot of different groups, and just share and be myself
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
share my story whenever I can and try to encourage people.
Yeah. That's so good. I talk about that in the context of, I call it a Parthenon marketing plan. You got the roof of the Parthenon is your business, and all the pillars, that come down are different marketing strategies. And just with what you talked about, I hear you saying you got your website, you've got your social media, which could be a number of different pillars. You got
Yes,
what I call strategic partnerships, which is people that you're working with in your local community that are giving you the opportunity to get in front of their clients because you bring value to them. And plus you're not afraid to get out and talk to people. I mean,
no.
that, I think, at the end of the day, you got to be able to talk about your work. And was that difficult for you, especially since you didn't come into this to like be an artist? Was it, or was that always a normal part of being able to share the story easily with people?
I've always shown, oh, sorry, I've always shared my story
Yeah.
as what God did for me, because
Mm,
that is natural for me, because he has answered so many prayers over the years, and that's just the part of me. It's the fabric of me, and
Yeah.
whoever I meet hears these stories. So it just was another one of those stories.
Yeah.
And it just bubbled over, and I really did not intend it to be a business. It just was a happy accident.
Thank you, Bob Ross, right?
Yeah.
Even
Oh,
those of
dear.
us who are not painters know that. That's really great. Well, Shawna, I love all the success that you're having, and really the coming into your zone as an artist. And I know people are going to want to connect with you on Facebook and on your website. So where is the best place that they can get in touch with you if they want to find out more about what you're doing?
Well, on my website is shawnawrightart.com. And on there are links to my Facebook, to Pinterest, to all the social media outlets that I'm on. So that's probably the easiest way to do it, right there on my website.
Awesome.
So shawnawrightart.com.
Good stuff. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. And guys, as you're listening, definitely go to Shawna's website, find out all that she's doing, follow her on social media, and buy something, right? I mean, get some of these. I love what you're doing, because we didn't talk about this a whole lot, but a lot of what you're doing is note cards and calendars, things like that. These are wonderful opportunities for people to buy and to be able to share with friends and that sort of thing, and pass the message on of what God's really created you to do. So that's really beautiful. I hope folks will do that. So, Shawna, thanks again for being on the podcast today. It's been great having you.
Thank you very much.
Hey, thanks so much for spending a few minutes with me today on the podcast. Listen, I hope it's been a huge encouragement to you on your journey as an artist. Hey, also, before you leave, make sure to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any of the other episodes of the Thriving Christian Artist podcast. And also, be sure to connect with me on Facebook, Instagram, or at my website, which is matttommeymentoring.com. Until next time, remember, you were created to thrive. Bye-bye.